Hello, Intuitive Art family. I'm Rachel Archelaus here with Carrie Roldan.
Hey guys.
We're so happy to be with you today because we're going to talk about something that we talk about a lot internally in our courses and in our coaching group and with our clients. As I alluded to in my email today, if you're not on our email list, go to intuitiveart.com and get our free class, and that'll get you on the list. And that is, so let me set the stage. Carrie and I work with people who want to have more of what they want in their life, whether that be a business or a better relationship or more money, right? They come to us for guidance and coaching, or they come to us to learn something so they can do that for themselves. And 95% of the people who come to me and who come to my classes want to eliminate what they think is blocking them. They want to get rid of the limiting beliefs that they know they have, or they want to remove some kind of energetic block that they think is stopping them from having what they want. Common thing, we hear it all the time in the spiritual community, clear your blocks, get rid of the baggage, like it's everywhere. And I'll remember when I realized through some beautiful, amazing teachers in my life, that if you go into the block, the belief, if you start your focus there, you're just going to make all that stuff bigger. The easier way, or the really only effective way, is to transcend the block, to know that the stream moves past the boulders all on its own. And we're going to talk about all that today and how to do that and so many ways to do that. It's not hard. It just takes a reframe in your mind and practice.
Yeah, and I just want to add, like, lots of times people come to us, mostly people come to us wanting to live into their purpose, wanting to do the work that they're meant to do in the world. And with that, in that same breath, have the thing, I just need to find out what's holding me back, right? There's that, like, I need to know what it is that's stopping me. Oh, I'm yawning already.
Yeah, this is a really good topic.
Yeah, so I just want to start, like, if that's you and if you're watching, there's nothing wrong with being there. I mean, I have been there. Rachel has been there. And sometimes I even stumble back there, right? It is okay to be where you are. And I think that I hope that what we talk about with the rest of this call brings you the peace and the excitement and the joy and the possibility that it brought me and Rachel when we discovered what we're going to share with you. It is a massive shift. It does take practice, but it's that moment of epiphany, that moment of aha and relief at the same time that we hope to bring to you today. So I don't know. Do you want to start with that, Rachel?
Yeah, well, I just want to share too. Like I knew this for a long time and I have practiced this, but it really, really became super clear to me when I was looking through Intimate Aliens View, because like this premise, right? We are huge, multidimensional, non-physical beings connected to source. There's nothing stopping us except that when we're here on this planet, happy Earth Day, by the way, we have the ability to view ourselves as this limited perspective, right? So we have the ability to think that we are cut off or blocked in some way. But from Intimate Alien's view, she only sees our wholeness, right? She sees like this body of ours is like the pinky nail of who we really are, right? And so if we think about that, if how we view ourselves day to day is like the pinky nail of who we really are, our higher self, our soul, then our limiting beliefs or our blocks, that's just the teeniest little part of this. So then it's like one little molecule of that pinky nail is the block or the limiting belief. That's not big enough to actually stand in our way. That's not big enough to make a difference in our life. It's just that when we focus on that, when we make that a priority or a reality, when we're listening to the outside world that says you have to work really hard, things don't come easily, money doesn't grow on trees, it's wrong for you to want more. When we internalize all of that stuff and we make that seem really big, we just have a distorted perspective. And we think that's like this huge boulder in front of us that we'd have to like chip our way through. But in actuality, it's the tiniest little speck of our existence. And if we can reorient to our bigger whole self, then we easily are given the path around it.
So let's use tangible examples, because I agree. And when you told me, like the metaphor you used the boulder, but you didn't use water. Or if you used water, I didn't hear water, in terms of like, hey, listen, if you're, I think the way that you talked to me about it, you said, if you're like hiking up a path and there's a giant boulder in front of you in the path, do you try and move the boulder? Or do you just make your own trail? Do you just move around it? And I was like, oh, isn't that funny? And how many of us get on our path and just stare at the boulder and scratch our heads and think about how are we going to move this boulder? Or like you said, try and like chip away at it when we could just easily move around it. And yet, so I guess tangible examples is like, okay, so here's a story. It's the way I was raised, or, well, it's always been this way for me, or I've never had, every time I've tried to do X, Y, or Z, something terrible happens, right? So it's not even that I'm saying this can see the boulder. I recognize, there must be a limiter there. There must be something that's holding me back. That every time I try X, Y, or Z, let's say every time I start a business, it fails. Or every time I manifest, this is a good one. This I think happens for a lot of people. Every time I get ahead, every time I start to have more money, gosh, the dishwasher breaks or like some expense comes up. Okay, I know that must be me, right? I have enough understanding of the law of attraction to recognize I must be doing this, but I'm not doing it. What is it, right? Like this is a situation we might find ourselves in. So I think I'm asking you, Rachel, is this a good place to start with this conversation?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I'm in this conversation, what would you say to me to help me stop? Because clearly I'm wondering, I'm looking for the boulder, right? What is the thing that is making me feel this way? What is the thing that keeps causing this to happen in my life? So instead of looking for the boulder, or maybe I'm aware, oh crap, there's a boulder that says right there on it, every time you get ahead, the rug will be pulled out from under you. Darn it. Okay, I see that sign on the boulder. Now what?
I love this. Yeah. So if you're listening, what is your example? Is it every time I create a class and I put it out there, no one signs up? Every time I save up $2,000 immediately, it's gone. Every time I try to make a new friend, it doesn't work out. Whatever it is for you, I have those things too. And we see patterns in our lives of things that aren't working. So anyway, what would I suggest? I would suggest asking yourself, what outcome do I want right now? What do I want?
Ooh, can I stop you?
Yeah.
Because I will do this, right? I'll say, okay, what do you want? And my lovely clients that I love so much will say, I just don't want to feel this way.
Exactly. which is smart because you want relief. You don't want to feel resistance. But going beyond that, because that's not a positive answer, you want to look for the positive answer. Like, so you want 10 people in your class, or you want to feel a connection to your students. You want to save $5,000 and, get past that 2,000 point where it just keeps draining out again. Or you want to have, you want to meet a really good friend, right? Somebody that you can trust and that you hit it off with. So find out where it is that if you could switch your life out, get that negative pattern out of the way, what would you replace it with? Like, what does it look like? What does it feel like? Who's there? What is in your bank account? And then really the most important thing of that is, how does it feel? I'm sure it feels like relief, because if you've been bumping up against something for a long time, letting that go, let's go of the resistance, you feel the relief in you. But beyond the relief, go beyond the relief. What does it feel like? Does it feel like relaxation? Does it feel like freedom? Does it feel like, oh, excited? I don't know what we're going to do today, but it's going to be fun. Does it feel like security? Does it feel like, oh yeah, eventually I'm going to want a new car, and knowing that I can already put a down payment on it, that's amazing. So what do you want? What do you want? Physically, also, more importantly, emotionally. What is your life if your current negative pattern reality wasn't there?
So, yes, amen, right? Yes. And what I love that you did, and what I'm doing more and more, I find with clients, is asking them for words that describe the word, right? So like you said, relief. Great. What does relief feel like? And then recognizing, sometimes what people say relief feels like not this, not having to do that, not having, and then going, and what does that feel like? Until we finally get in the place of, it feels relaxed. It feels open. My body feels, X, Y, or Z. So I just want to encourage any of you who are in this with us, who are in this conversation with us. It's funny how we don't often want to go deep into what we actually want, right? I find
that we don't even want to. It's that it's hard.
Yes.
Because if our momentum is negative, law of attraction is giving us more negative. It's giving us more reasons why we're right. It's giving us more examples in the world of other people that are stuck in those negative patterns. It's giving us clearings and do this to clear the trauma and go back to your childhood. It's giving us all the support because that's where our focus is. So this is the key, right? In the email, I'm like, if you go to the unblock yourself mode, there's going to be more and more and more and more to unblock. And so the difficult part of this is using your focus to go to where you want to be. How can you change that negative set point into the positive? And it might just be on that one thing that you have a negative set point, right? You could be the happiest person in the world and have one thing, right? We'll talk about that later, but you want to be able to have the view and the feeling and the embodiment of, oh, this is what I want, and reorient every single time it comes up to, I can give myself what I want right now. I can give myself the peace, the ease. It might be difficult, but there are ways to do it. So that's really the basics. And as you're doing that, as you're reorienting, you're bringing that topic with you. And, that's calibrating, like your vibration is where you last left it. So you might be triggered in a moment where it hasn't come up for you in a while, but now here it is, full force back to where you last left it. And so the reorienting toward the positive and the soothing of, you know what, that used to be my pattern, but it's not anymore. And I understand now how to how to actually let myself have what I want. And it's not my fault. It's just that the law of attraction was giving me where I was focusing. And it's not magic, it's just changing of the energy and changing of the momentum. And I can give myself time for that to happen. It's not going to happen overnight. And all of those like little positive facing statements help you bring that vibration up and transcend those limiting beliefs.
That gave me a yawn as well, Rachel. And so many things came up in me as you were talking of recent conversations that I've been in, particularly around, okay, so what you're saying is when you recognize, oh, I've been triggered. Oh, especially on a topic. So you and I have a mutual friend. Her name is Cyndia. And when I first met Cyndia, she wanted to write a book or have a show or something called Are You Weird About? Because she was fascinated how people in general have one area that where they experience their resistance. So someone may be wealthy and successful and happy and secure, but physically overweight, right? Like, oh, that's where they're weird about. Or someone may be, in all the markers of their lives, feeling amazing and competent and confident and good, except for they feel awkward in the company of men, or they feel awkward with it, right? Like everybody has their, like, are you weird about? And this idea of limiting beliefs. So I was in this other conversation and I talked about soothing, right? Getting your sake. And I was met, so interesting, right? I was met by a lot of people saying, no, you cannot soothe. You have to, shut that down. You have to flip the switch. You have to change that. You have to recognize in the moment and change it. And I feel like both things have happened for me, right? There have been moments where I've heard myself say something and gone, oh, I'm not saying that anymore, right? And there's been other times where I've done exactly what you've done, what you just did, calibrated my way there, right? Kind of softly moved myself from one to the other. I don't think either is wrong. But when you were talking, I was like, oh man, there's so many people in my industry who are triggered by the idea of self-soothing. What do you want to say about that?
I never heard that. I didn't know. I look to self-soothing as self-love, right? It's if a child made a mistake and felt like frustrated with themselves, we wouldn't be like, never do that again. You know what I mean? We would be like, oh, it's okay. You'll do it better next time. Everything's fine. Nothing was harmed, right? Like, so I think people on a whole are really hard on themselves. And of course, there's nothing wrong with noticing yourself saying, like, frankly, I notice myself saying things I wouldn't want to repeat again or say out loud, right? But I feel like that quick judgment more than likely leans to the harsh side, the judgment side. Like, if it can actually be a awareness and a flip of the momentum all in that one moment, that's awesome. But that's just not usually how it goes, because we do have momentum on these things. And if that's the first time we're aware of it, there's a whole iceberg under there that was already in process and working in the background. Now we have awareness, which means we're able to choose something different, but sometimes it needs to taper off. Like you can't just stop a train on a dime. The train's got to slow down. But yeah, whatever works for you.
What I like about the idea of the soothing, the way that you're talking about it, is I'm going to use like a therapy example, right? But like some people spend years in therapy talking about why their mother has screwed them up, right? Or why their parents made them, like making excuses for why they are the way they are, saying, not that this happens in all therapy, right? But people can go to therapy for years and not feel better or improve things in their life because they're spending the time continuing to talk about, well, if only my parents had done differently, right? And I probably, now that I'm saying this out loud, I'm recognize several of my best friends are therapists, and they would be like, well, that's a bad therapist if that's where they are, right? So take this with a grain of salt. Hopefully a good therapist is going to take you out, move you out of that. And that's not what we're talking about. So there's that thing. And then there's the thing of, well, how do you want to be? Right. And I have definitely been there where it's like, it doesn't really matter what happened to you. How do you want your life to be now? Right. Focus forward. Like I tend to be a little more that way. Like, who cares what happened to you in the past? There are lots of people with worse circumstances who have made better. Like, I will sort of come with that attitude. And what I like about what you just said is it's about gently moving momentum, right? It's about recognizing there is a whole iceberg of stuff that got you to whatever limiting belief you happen to be facing in this moment. And it is okay to be like, oh, it's natural that I would think that. Because, gosh, I was taught to believe that by well-meaning parents who only had my best interest at heart. And I recognize that that's okay that they were like that. And it's okay that I've had that experience. And it's okay. Like, instead of picking kind of one extreme or the other, starting where you are, even sometimes having the epiphany of why, but not staying there, not looking at it for very long, not like going into the story of why you are the way you are, but just, oh, that makes sense. And I really do love that word, and that's my new favorite. But it makes sense that that's the way that I am. It makes sense that that's how it is. And it makes sense that I would want something different in my life. And it feels good to think about how, right? And just taking that momentum like slowly and surely. So I just wanted to say that like self-soothing isn't, I think maybe the people that were triggered by it, to me, they heard it by me. I think maybe they heard it as like placating. Well, like, of course, honey, of course you're feeling that way. Like, that's not what we're talking about. I don't know if that makes sense.
As you were talking, I felt the difference that I feel anyway. And whereas like, okay, I said something negative about myself, right? As I passed the mirror and I go, oh God, no, I can never think that again. It's not true. To me, that stays up here. It's a very mental judgment reaction. But when you were soothing, I felt it here. And what it did was it connected me with the truth of myself. And I think it has longer lasting effects. Just for me, it could be different for you. But, one thing that we didn't really talk about is like, when you're addressing yourself as the multidimensional being that you really are, any movement of your vibration, it lifts every area. And feeling that connection to your heart and your truth illuminates more on every aspect of your life. So like if you're working on one thing that seems to be like you got triggered, you noticed a negative pattern, you didn't like it. Now you're soothing yourself up. You're bringing your whole self with you. Every area of your life is going to be elevated because of that. And I also want to just preface this by saying, we're not advocating in this conversation that you now go looking for all the things that you want to change in your life, because believe me, you going about your business, doing what lights you up, living your joy, living your truth, you're going to bump into these things once in a while. You don't have to look for them. I would not advocate looking for them. They will come up. They come up for me all the time. Like as you expand yourself into the world, as you do what you really want to do, as you do only what you love with Carrie's shirt there, these things will become apparent to you in the right time for you to be able to deal with them. And then you calibrate and you soothe and you feel and you ask yourself, oh, geez, I see this. I see this thing that I was expecting, this thing that I actually don't want. Well, what do I really want? And then you move yourself up. Now you can move in your life into this whole new area for all of you. So this is a really natural process that happens. And just think about it like a forest animal, right? If they have enough food for the day, they're not going to like scope out the rest of the forest and be like, all right, when am I going to run out of food? And how can I, they do whatever they do in the moment. And that's really what I advocate as well, because so many reasons. You can get way ahead of yourself, freak yourself out, overwhelm yourself, and create all of these negative beliefs and obstacles that aren't really there or any concern to you. And at the same time, my mind kind of just went blank. You can only choose something different in the moment.
Funny that you were talking about being in the moment and then you were just like, I can't remember what I was talking about. That happens to me as well. And I'm looking at, so I feel like this is a good time, Rachel, to remind people that we do provide support in living this way. And it is, I feel like, to everybody's benefit, to whether you're watching our free videos on YouTube or you're joining us in the Multidimensional Abundance Coaching Group, recognize that, yeah, this does take practice and it takes love and support. And it often takes other people holding up the mirror, and it takes choosing what vibration that you want to live in. Like you said earlier, Rachel, your vibration is where you last left it. And like that is so good to remember when it's not where I want it. And the one thing that you said that I wanted to touch on is you said, well, first of all, if you want to figure out how to join us, it's intuitiveart.com/membership, right? Okay. So if you know, I am ready to live in the vibration of what I want, and I have these big goals and dreams, and I feel like, oh crap, I think it's me in the way, and I'm ready to live more into my heart instead of beating myself up with writing lists and doing I write all kinds of lists. I tell myself all kinds of affirmations, but I'm telling you, magic happens when you go from here to here. And that's really where we provide amazing support, is living from here. And you said we don't advocate for looking for where you need to fix. And I wanted to just say, no, we advocate for just the opposite, that you have this amazing life. So I'm looking at Guillaume's comment. Guillaume says, there are so many desires I wish to manifest, but I feel I may have a lot of limiting beliefs. Yeah, you probably do. We all do. Right. So, but what we advocate for is looking around your current life and reminding yourself of the awesomeness of it, and actually actively finding evidence that what you desire is on its way. So whether that's, I want to be, well, let's use Rachel, right? Like, I want to be someone who is a screenwriter. I want to be a showrunner. I want to be, right, like some dreams that Rachel currently has. She could choose to look around and be like, ugh, but I'm in Utah and not Hollywood. And I don't have, right? She could look around her life and find plenty of evidence that dream is really far away. Or she could look around her life and be like, oh my goodness, I met so-and-so when I went to this film festival, and I've been taking courses and getting better. And look at that. I wrote a screenplay, and just this morning I handed it off to someone, and like, she's looking at the evidence that it is happening. And that's what we advocate for, right? Is looking for the evidence, not just looking for, because people will say, I'm looking for the evidence. It's not there. So scratch that, looking for, finding. evidence that you're on your way. Finding evidence, right? Building that momentum, pushing, I'm going to use the snowball example. Pushing the snowball forward, right? Like your snowball starts out as this little tiny thing, and then you give it a push and it grows and grows and grows until it's, a massive snowman.
That
That's
really is how it works. Because, like we talked about momentum, right? Momentum, you need to gain the speed, gain the ease. You work out the kinks as you're building that up. And hopefully you're doing it in a way that is more seamless. It's better to go slow in the beginning, right? So it might not feel like you're making a lot of progress in the beginning when you're finding evidence that what you want happens for people. I remember I've had this dream of having a show about my life for, 20 years. And I just sat on it for like the first 16 because I didn't know, I didn't know anything about that world. And they always say it's who you know. Well, I don't know anyone, and I am painfully introverted and shy. I'm not going to go networking to anywhere, I'm not going to talk to people who didn't talk to me first. A la Carrie and I being friends, she called me. And so how am I going to get anything like that done? Well, what Carrie said was true. I started going to film festivals a couple of years ago, and lo and behold, people talk to me and they're like, what are you up to? And I was like, I'm doing this thing. And I've met cool people that then I became friends with on Facebook. And an actor moved into my area and started working at the coffee shop I go to. And a couple of weeks ago, I heard somebody say, if you want to break into the industry, then make something, write a short film with the things that are accessible to you in your area. And so I was like, oh, okay. I wrote down all the things in my area that could be cool to put in a film. Like I have a sheep farm and a coffee shop and, the state parks around here. And so I wrote a short film, and then I just gave it to somebody yesterday. And it's like, I didn't know anyone. I didn't know anything. And now I do, but it took time, and it took being willing to have that evidence appear for me. I had an expectation that was at least neutral, right? At least neutral. That's fine. If you have happy things going on, if you're appreciative in your life, neutral is perfect. It's an open channel. But if you have positive expectation, that's even better, because then it can come to you faster and cleaner and bigger. And let's just go back to the basics here, in that you are a creator being. You are the one who is orchestrating this whole thing. There isn't anything in your way. There's not a darn thing in your way. You can have everything you want. But we got to take away the filter that says otherwise. That's it. That's it. And we do that just by soothing, by practicing positive expectation, by knowing that living our truth is what is our path to getting there, by doing things that feel good, by appreciating what we've already let into our lives, right? That's all. It's a slow momentum at first to shift into the positive expectation, but it does happen. Keep your focus on the good stuff, and the bad stuff will slowly die away.
So it's funny that we're talking about this in the same as the conversation around limiting beliefs, because I have some experience with this. So I knew part of my limiting beliefs were around scarcity consciousness, right? Like I was staring at the boulder that says, oh, here's your problem, right? Like the boulder had a big sign on it that says, oh, you're focusing on scarcity. So I was like, okay, well, I am going to now focus on abundance. And I like that switch in my head was like, okay, because you're saying you can, and it takes time, and I'm like, I remember. And so getting to sort of the end of the story now is that I'm no longer in scarcity consciousness. I mean, of course, there are moments for everybody where I recognize, oh, there's room for more. There's room for more abundance here. There's room for expansion of my vision. But I was definitely in this place of believing that I'm not sure if I want to say a pile of money or just stepping into 100% abundance consciousness would be the solution to all my problems. And the reason I'm saying that is because if you think that that in having the thing that you want is a solution to all your problems, you're not as close as you as you think you are. And I remember being there so much like, okay, I get it. I've been thinking about scarcity. I'm now only thinking about abundance. Like, okay. And boy, this will be the solution to all my problems. Like this, okay, awesome. I understand what caused my problems. Now I'm going to focus on abundance. And in 30 minutes, I will have $10 million and everything. I mean, I'm exaggerating here, but like I was unwilling to work my way up the scale, to soothe myself up the scale. I was just like, oh, nope, get it, got it. Okay. Not going to look at the scarcity boulder, only looking at abundance boulder and sitting in wait, like sitting in wait. And I like, spoiler alert, I didn't wake up to $10 million the next day. You know, what has happened though is by keeping focus on abundance and finding evidence, no matter how small, because I think it's pretty natural initially when you come to this work to be like limiting, like Rachel. Okay, for example, you watch this video, you're like, oh, okay, got it. Never, don't look at my limiting beliefs. If I see them, look the other way. So, so you do. And then you're like, oh, looking this way, only looking this way. Is it still there? I'm only looking this way, only look, wait, you know, like we do that. And I know I did that for a long time until I had enough momentum, right? I had enough and that came from people like Rachel pointing out to me, because I had a tendency to let the pendulum swing, right? It might hang out on this side for a really long time and then come back to that side. Oh, hey guys, come back to that side really, really strongly. And it wasn't until I had learned to flex the muscle of self-soothing and looking for things that feel a little bit better and being reminded of the way things are already working out and there's my dog, taking action from my heart, regardless of whether it was going to bring me $10 million the next day. Did I find abundance consciousness? And I know we talk about this a lot, but or now, if I had found $10 million the next day, that would have felt like the answer to all of my problems. Where today, if I were to wake up to $10 million tomorrow, I would be like, oh, there it is. Now what? And that's what we're talking about, right? Soothing yourself to the place where what you're wanting, what you're asking for, isn't the answer to all of your problems. It's the next logical thing that's going to happen in your life. And I heard that so many times. I heard that so many times. And I was like, yeah, but I want to wake up to $10 million tomorrow. And I don't want to tell you that's not possible for you, because when people tried to tell that to me, I would get really angry at them. It's just recognizing it's about what it would feel like. It's about what it feels like. Guillaume's saying hello to my dog. I feel like we talk about this so much, Rachel, that it's because it's about like feeling into yourself. That gives you the answer of how close you are. You go.
Yeah, well, I just want to say hi, Emma. Hi, Zach. Hi, Guillaume. Thanks for coming and chatting. I love this conversation because, yes, I believe, money, having more money up to a certain point is extremely relieving and helpful. Having a reliable vehicle like is life changing for me. I grew up with lots and lots and lots of junkers and it was very stressful. But beyond having a certain amount of financial comfort, which of course does come from in here first, but I like to play this game sometimes where I embody what it would be like to make 10 million a year, say. That's just felt fun lately. Um, and I remember about a year ago, I had a hair appointment that was rescheduled. And so I was playing the game that day, it was my $10 million self. And I went to the hairdresser and it was at an early time, which I normally don't do because I don't really feel awake until afternoon. So it was like 10 a.m. I was there. I went in and she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, but you're not scheduled until 11." And I was like, "What?" And I was like upset. That I was downtown. There weren't really, I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't go back home because it was too far. So I was just like, okay, great. I'm a millionaire and I'm stuck downtown for an hour. What the fuck? Like, this is not helping me in any way. Like, it's not enough time to go get a facial or a massage. Like, I could spend all the money in the world right now, but it's not going to solve my problem. And for some reason, that silly little thing really hit home to me that if I'm not happy, money is not going to change a damn thing, right? Like, I like to fake buy houses too. Sometimes I look at real estate and I saw this amazing house. It's perfect. It's everything I would have wanted. But it's like 40 minutes from where I am now. And I would really miss my walkable neighborhood and the people that I meet at my coffee shop. And like, I'm realizing as I get older that like what I want, I have largely allowed. And if we get into this habit of thinking like this isn't good enough, then we kind of miss the celebration of being a creator. How often do we get someplace where we would have loved to be 10 years ago and just totally brush over it because we're not satisfied because we want more, or we think we should have more by now? Like I've been hiking in amazing places and being like stressed out and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm here. I wanted to be here. I really wanted to be here so bad and I'm here. This is it. It's time to enjoy. So it's like sinking down into the moment, being with yourself and enjoying the positive aspects of what's happening, right? Maybe not everything's perfect, but that's okay because you're going to keep evolving and growing. It's not about making each moment perfect because each moment is always moving. It's about training yourself to find the best with what you have right now, and then more bests will come to you. You have an open door to the best of the best when you are appreciating. And that's really what it's about.
I love that you used the phrase training yourself. Yes, yes, and yes, it's not about the epiphany. The epiphany is amazing. And oftentimes the limiting belief is the epiphany. And with the epiphany comes a shift, for sure, always. And it's about what comes after the epiphany, right? The training yourself, the choosing. So you used the phrase willing earlier, and that's one of my favorite phrases. And that's one of the things that I know really helps people in my coaching, right? As they want to be able to believe what they want, but they're not there yet. So if they can be willing to believe, that helps a lot. But that being willing to believe is part of the training yourself, right? After willing to believe is willing to look for evidence and find it. After willing to look for evidence and find it is seeing evidence and being willing to believe that it is evidence. And right, like there's this whole thing, and that is the training. And I know for a long time, I wanted to skip that part in the vibrational area of my life. I was totally willing to train. Like I've been an athlete my whole life. So are you weird about, right? Going back to that, what's the limiting belief here? I was like, I was willing to do the work in a lot of areas. And I wanted to not be accountable to myself for my vibrational work. I wanted to be able to flip it on when it, like, with just a thought. But the thought is just part of the flipping it on. And the flipping it on is very rarely it's more of like turning up the dial.
Yeah. Like we have to eat every day in order to stay healthy in our body. It's advised that we move around because that feels better to us and we can stay healthier. And, we got to address the fact that we're vibrational, energetic beings. And if we don't, that's fine. We'll create by default. We won't be paying attention to our thoughts and feelings. And so we'll just get what we get. If we watch more news for a month, then we'll probably get worse stuff because that's what we're focusing on. If we go on vacation, maybe we'll, get some extra fun bonuses because we're relaxed. But that's not how I want to live. I want to live deliberately, and I want to play in this world, and I want to be supported for living my truth. And that does take more attention than living by default, because I want to cast the vision. I want to choose the feelings that are present in my life, the clarity that I live in. It's so worth it. It's so addicting. When you get into the habit of like realizing the magic that you are capable of, there's no going back, because it's a wonderful thing. It feels so right. When people talk about living in their purpose, this is the feeling of that. And it's so good. And I also would just want to say, Carrie mentioned our coaching group, but all of this we cover in the full program of our certification too. We teach you how to work with people using these premises and techniques. It's really game changing. Even if you're already a coach, learning how to help people cultivate these habits and become a deliberate creator is awesome. Totally awesome. Not a lot of coaches are using this approach, and it's so effective.
Well, I'll just speak to that. So yes, it was a game changer for me. One, learning for myself, which you guys, especially if you watch regularly, like, you're experiencing more and more of my story. I've always been, but I'll just tell you, I've always been an amazing coach. People have always loved working with me. They've always appreciated the epiphanies, the questions that I ask, the guidance that they get. Like, I think I've always been somehow perceived as wise. So I've always been a good coach, and I can own that now. And shifting into coming from this place with my clients has been a game changer. Not just about the joy and ease that comes with the way that I show up in coaching, which is amazing and magical and relaxing, and like, just, it feels so much better just to show up as me, to in that way, and for the results that they are getting, faster for sure, and miraculous. We describe them as multidimensional, right? We know that as you raise the vibration in one area of your life, right, everything rises. The expression that's coming to me is a rising tide raises all ships, right? Like, that idea that's happening in their lives. So they look at it as like, wow, but their word is miraculous. Their word is like better than I could have possibly imagined. And that is so fun, watching that happen for my clients. So yeah, if you're watching and you work with people in as a coach or as a consultant or as an advice giver or oh man, it is worth checking out. Rachel, maybe you can tell them where to go.
Yeah, intuitiveartacademy.com intuitiveart.com/me, M-E. Or you can just go to our website, intuitiveart.com, and click the certification link on the top. So we've been talking for 50 minutes and it feels like 10 because this is so much fun to talk about. So yeah, I don't know. I guess to wrap up, you are a multidimensional being made of source energy. There is nothing that could possibly stand in your way, except that we are having an experience of living on this amazing planet where we are able to grow our focus in whatever direction we choose because we have free will and we love ourselves that much. So you can choose now, knowing this, the focus that you'd prefer to grow, and go from there and love yourself, soothe yourself as much as you can, because you're doing something really cool. You're becoming a deliberate creator, and that's totally rad and deserves so much love and patience and appreciation that the whole world could give to you.
I'm tapping unmute with a flourish here. Yes. Yes to everything that Rachel just said. And the journey is so worthwhile. The journey is so worthwhile. We think it's about the destination. Like we really do, but the journey is so worthwhile. Like just the idea that you could spend every day choosing to help yourself feel better is amazing. It's so worthwhile.
And yeah, like the thought of that destination, like every day is the destination. Every day is the destination. And as you get better at this, as your momentum grows, every day something new will come in that will blow your socks off. So yeah, you are the destination. Your truth, you're here. You chose to be here. This is the destination. So just imagine that things are just going to keep getting better, but today is worth living and being in the moment with and celebrating. And thanks, Zach. He says, see you at work. Nice.
Yes. Thanks for this, Rachel.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Well, we love you. Thanks for coming. If you have any topics that you'd like us to talk about, let us know. And next week, we have a special guest. So we're going to be talking about leadership and amazing things with Dawn Andrews. Okay, friends. Bye for now. Have a great day.
Bye, guys.